Hey guys, this is Matt. Welcome back to my garage. I know it's been a while since I put out a video. The month of February was crazy. The weather was terrible. I was sick a couple times. My daughter was sick one week. And so between everything going on, I did not have a lot of time to get out in the garage. But now that the weather's starting to turn a little bit warmer and I'm finally feeling better, I'm definitely going to be getting back on the projects. So my main focus for the first part of this year is going to be the RX-7 and I've got several things planned for that. But one thing I have been experiencing, and thus why the BMW is up on the lift right now, is I have been having some boost issues with my car. Essentially, when I get into heavy boost, I'm getting some cutout, I'm getting some very poor throttle response. And then when I look at my data log, when I do heavy pulls, I'm only hitting about 9 to 10 PSI of boost pressure, which is really close to essentially stock boost pressures. I think with the modifications I've got and data logging that I've done previously, I should easily be able to hit 15 PSI. I'm not trying to go too crazy with my setup because I do need to make this a very reliable daily driver. So I think 15 to 18 PSI boost on an N55 is a pretty reliable number to achieve and not that difficult with a few bolt-ons and some tunes. I've done some exhaust work, I've done some intake work. I did not complete the turbo side of the intake piping just because that's usually not a failure point on the N55s, but I do have that now, and so I will be replacing that through this process. But something I should have replaced when I did all this work was my diverter valve. Essentially, it's like an electronic controlled piston, and it helps modulate the boost pressure. If you're on acceleration and you let off the gas, basically this opens up and releases the boost pressure back inside your intake. I'll definitely put a link down below to someone that explains all this much better and more detailed than I can. Factory diverter valve has a rubber diaphragm inside of it. If you're running stock boost pressures, it's probably going to last you more than most of the life of the car. But if you're like me and you're trying to go well beyond factory boost pressures, then that diverter valve is really not designed for that. My car does have about 74,000 miles on it, so it's probably definitely time for me to look at getting that replaced. So after doing research online, I think the Go Fast Bits DV Plus diverter valve upgrade is probably the most popular upgrade that most people will find online. It replaces that rubber diaphragm with metal and silicone components. It still maintains the functionality of the electronically controlled diverter valve. However, it does come with springs and it does have some functions in there that lets you keep boost pressures when you get off the gas. So this will not necessarily increase your performance horsepower wise or boost level wise, unless you potentially have a boost leak coming from your diverter valve. Then obviously this is just going to let you get back up to the boost pressures that you can develop. But this will make your throttle response much better. Some people say it adds, a little bit better sound. Some people say it quietens the sounds. I think it really depends on the types of intakes and exhausts and things that you already have. So hopefully I can get some good audio of the sounds after we get this installed. I reached out to Brian over at Keys Motorsports and asked him if we could do the partnership on this video. He said, sure. He sent this right over to me. So thank you, Brian, for your support. And if you guys are in the market for BMW performance or any kind of aftermarket cosmetics, you name it, head over to kiesmotorsports.com. They have tons and tons of partnerships with tons of really great companies, and they also have an amazing library of installations for a lot of the components that they sell. So Brian has a very similar car to mine. I know he's had other ones, and they bring in tons of modern BMWs into their shop. Check out Keys Motorsports on YouTube. I'll put links to all that down below. One of the things I'm going to try to accomplish with my installation that you may not see anywhere else is that I do have the XDrive. You'll find people that say that if you have the rear-wheel drive version of these cars, installation takes a couple of hours if you've got a lift. With the rear-wheel drive car, you don't have the transfer case and all the axles and all that stuff that the XDrive has that potentially gets in the way. And a lot of times on those forum posts, when I would see people say, hey, what about the XDrive? A lot of times those would go unanswered, but every once in a while you'd hear somebody come in and say it's a nightmare. You got to drop the subframe. You got to do this. You got to do that. It's really, really challenging on the XDrive. And that may be the case, and we may confirm that today. Or I may be able to prove that you can get to it fairly easily without having to do too much extra work. I think the challenge is getting in there, reaching in, getting those 3 existing fasteners off. I believe this new diverter valve comes with all the new hardware and fasteners that we need. We need to drop the belly pan, and we basically need to try to get as much stuff out of the way so that we can see up basically up through the front of the car towards the turbo. Also, while I'm in there, I'm going to go ahead and do the turbo to intercooler piping, change the plastic factory piping over to I think it's aluminum that the Evolution Raceworks piping is. So anyway, I'll get you set up and I'll see you guys in a second. I I think I'm gonna go ahead and take the intercooler out. Go ahead and try to take that turbo to intercooler piping completely off. I may have to lower the car down and access something up there, but hopefully I can reach everything. And you know, the clips are probably gonna be a pain to get to up there. So anyway, I'm gonna try to get any of the plastic shielding, you know, like I said, the intercooler, try to get as much of the stuff off the car as I can, just because getting access from basically right behind the intercooler all the way up to where the turbocharger is going to be a challenge. So anything I can easily get out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so here's the intercooler, and I do have the factory intercooler still on this car, which is definitely something I'm going to look to replace in the future. But for now, it is I've got better things to spend my money on. So here is this is the pipe that goes up to the turbocharger. You might be able to see it up there. There's a little plastic retaining clip that takes a lot of force, but you got to grab both sides and push it towards the intercooler. It'll pop really loud. Then you should be able to get that off. And then there's this metal clip that you just work out of the slots that it's in. And the same thing basically is on the intake side. So on this side, I've already replaced it with the Evolution Raceworks, I think it's aluminum charge pipe. So there you don't have to worry about the clip. That's the OEM clip, but basically it still uses the same style clip that holds on the factory pipes. Once those are both off, there's basically a T25 Torx that go on each side of the intercooler, one here, one on the other side. Pop both of those out. And if I remember correctly, I think you can wiggle the intercooler out. You might have to, some of this trim here might have to get kind of pushed out of the way. I don't think it's necessary to take the bumper off because I think there's enough play to kind of move some of this stuff out of the way. So this is a real challenge to show you, but I'll put a red circle on the screen. But that little silver knurled bolt that you can see there in the center of the screen, that's one of 3 bolts holding the diverter valve on. I'm basically right behind the passenger side front tire looking up, and this is the steering rack that you're kind of seeing around the screen. But the black plastic, that's the actual diverter valve. So it's really difficult to get a camera angle, but I think from this side, I should be able to remove 2 of the 3 bolts. I can at least touch them with my fingers. So hopefully that means I can get a tool on there and get those off. The third one, which is on the complete opposite side from where I'm at, is that's going to be the mystery on how to get it. You know, I don't know if I'll have to. That'll be the one that we try to have to attack from the front. But essentially, I can see 2 of them, and hopefully, I can fit my arm up through the suspension and get those 2 off. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get the intercooler piping off and get the intercooler out, and then we'll see if we can see that 3rd bolt. So these little clips are not pleasant to have to get off. You know, essentially you've got to really pry these down. And I think what I remember when I did the other side, you know, if you can actually access one of the sides really easily, and that one you can pop off by your hand or just using a screwdriver and basically forcing it down towards the intercooler, it'll pop off. This one is very tight to get to the outer side. And so what I basically did is push this up and over the intercooler piping and then twisted it, and I was able to reach it and pull it, and it came right out. So I don't think I have to reuse these for the new piping, but those are a pain to get out. I do remember that. So now essentially we've got these little clips, and they're relatively easy to pull out. They've got a retainer in the bottom. You get that out and over, and then the whole clip just kind of pops out. So I'll try to get it out and then show you what that looks like. I don't know how well the camera will pick that up, but there's, you know, the end of the intercooler pipe has a special notch, and it just sits in there, and then otherwise it just pops out. So it's not a big deal. Like I said, the other side will be much easier because I don't have to deal with that plastic clip. I will save this because I'm not sure if the new pipe came with one or not, but anyway, I'll hold on to this, clean it up. And so now, yeah, so that intercooler piping is, or that side of the intercooler piping is loose. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this other side real quick and then just drop the intercooler down. So I got the intercooler pulled down hard enough and start pulling it kind of, you know, this way. It'll eventually just come out. Some of the plastic line kind of, push it out of the way and bend it down a little bit. And I think prying the tabs off of the fan shroud and getting that to move back just enough, gives you enough clearance to get that pulled out. And when I did, all this crap came out of the intercooler. So definitely be careful when you're pulling yours out. Probably picked up a lot of road debris as well. So I'm gonna get this mess cleaned up and then see what the next step is for getting the charge pipe out. So this is a little bit of a challenge to film, but I'm back up in the engine bay and I'm looking straight down, and I'll put a little arrow, but that is the second clip that holds the charge pipe onto. Of course, the camera won't focus on it now, but that's I'm basically looking down right through here, and that's the clip that holds the upper portion of the charge pipe onto the turbo. And that had the same black plastic clip that was down at the other end of the charge pipe. The charge pipe, you can rotate it. Now that you've got it disconnected at this lower end, you can grab it and rotate it. So from underneath the car, I took a really long screwdriver, the longest one I've got, reached up alongside the charge pipe and basically pressed on this clip until I felt it snap and twist around. At that point, I just rotate the charge pipe a little bit more to where I got more access to this, and then between the reaching up from the end of the other, the low end of the charge pipe, and then reaching up in between the what essentially is the control arm and the axle, I was basically able to grab this, rotate it until it came completely out. And then from up here, basically I could reach my hand down here with the same screwdriver and just work that clip off. So very hard to film and see, but basically now all I need to do is pull that charge pipe out from the bottom of the car, but I'll go ahead and lift the car back up before I do that. All right, so there's the end of the OE charge pipe. The axle's back there, which is hard to see, but it's a tight squeeze, but you can get one arm up through there with a screwdriver, and then that's where I was able to I was also able to touch the other end of the charge pipe. Like I said, you've got some it's limited, but you do have some rotation that you can manipulate, which, this pipe is relatively straight. The other side has a lot more of a bend to it, and it was much more difficult to get out. So up there, that little shiny circle, that's the connection to the turbo housing for the charge pipe, and the little clip is still stuck up there, so I'll have to reach up there and grab that. But now that I got this off, I'll see if this helped get us any more access to that diverter valve. I don't think it did, but I'll have to go ahead and check that. If it doesn't, I'll probably just go ahead and leave that off for now. Otherwise we'd be able to assemble the new charge pipe, but I'll get that clip out and then I'll check in a minute. So it's been a couple hours since the last shot because I stopped and got dinner and regroup a little bit. So two of the bolts for the diverter valve are really easy to get to. With the intercooler off, you can basically go through the fan, the radiator fan, and just, with enough extensions, you can just reach down there and get, if you're looking from the front of the car, it would be the upper left and the bottom. You can get those out, no problem. And I went ahead and took those out, or got them at least most of the way out. The third one, which would be in the upper right corner, if you're looking, towards the engine, I can see it. I could almost get my, I used a myriad of extensions and I could reach in there and almost get to it. I did take the water pump and move it out of the way, which that helped. Just so buried in there that even if with the right number of extensions, getting straight on to that bolt is very challenging. So I'm going to put the car back together for tonight. I've got work tomorrow and I need to be able to drive this. I will go ahead and put the new Evolution Raceworks charge pipe back on the car. Basically it comes in two sections with a silicone adapter, and I line these up and got the shape to match. And essentially the only other thing I've got to do is there's an O-ring on this side and that side, and you just got to swap them into this perspective slots on this one. I've already test fitted it and I shouldn't have any problems, but there's really not a lot to see because, again, this just gets up in there, and then I got to get the clamp, reuse the clamps that we took off that go there and there. The one thing I am nervous about is, this one, you can easily rotate it and get some access to the various clip points to be able to put that clip on. This one, I don't think I'm going to be able to rotate it, or if I do, it'll be very minimal. You know, the way this is oriented, the clip will want to go on sideways from up above. So hopefully that's not too much of an issue. I did go back and do some more research, and people said you basically take the whole top of the engine off, you know, water pumps and hoses and radiators and all that stuff, and you can get to it from the top easier than the bottom. If I just had the right amount of extensions, and I was using a flexible extension, which that helped a lot because it kind of let it fish through there. But I mean, it was just, I literally needed a millimeter, 2 millimeters to be able to straighten that out and get it down into the head of the bolt. But anyway, that's the story of my life. You know, note to anybody that's getting an XDrive or thinking about getting an XDrive, if you do want to modify your car, it is possible. You will have many more hours getting tasks done than if you didn't have the XDrive system. So like I said, hopefully after we get this sorted out, the rest of the projects will be on the RX-7. And again, thanks to Brian over at Kies Motorsports for hooking me up with that diverter valve. I will get it sorted out. I haven't lost faith yet, but it will be a challenge. And like I said, I don't think it'll be worth going from the top of the engine, because I was so close to getting it from this side that I don't want to go up there and take a bunch of things off. But I may look at that once I get it back on the ground, and maybe that's the way we go. But you just can't even see the diverter valve from up there. At least from down here, you can see it, and you can touch it and feel it and get 2 of the bolts out relatively easily. It's just that third one's a real challenge. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.
Might as well just ride around the nursery and count sheep.